Assalamu alaikum. My name is Astrid Ross, also known as Saida Abdul Shakur. I am married to Sheikh Akil Abdul Shakur. That makes me Mrs. Abdul Shakur. I'm 49 years old and I'm a Muslim. I took my Shahada in April of 1992. I was raised in the Christian church, was baptized Astrid Sarika Ross at Neriah Baptist Church as a child, and kind of took the path of many Christians in America, letting the culture dictate how my Christianity was practiced. I attended public school, went to trade school and traditional college, and worked in jobs in government as well as a business owner. I was raised in the Christian church. I was baptized Astrid Sarika Ross at Neriah Baptist Church. And I kind of took the path that many Christians take and let the culture dictate how my Christianity was practiced in America. I attended public school, went to trade school and traditional colleges, and worked in government and was a business owner. At the time that I met my husband, he was a practicing Muslim. We married, but I refused to accept the religion because of the stereotypes and all the cultural baggage that came along with what I understood Islam was for women. I agreed to study, but deep inside I resisted, hoping to bring him back from what I considered at the time the dark side. What happened was something more beautiful than I didn't even imagine. My husband's life and religious practice not only won me over, but I began to yearn and have a fever for the religion. About 8 months into our marriage, during a halakha with an African sheikh, he convinced me that the resistance was futile and I was holding myself back from the bliss of this beautiful religion. This particular African sheikh proved to me with evidence from the Bible that Christianity and Islam were intimately related. They were intertwined. Humans can't see the big picture, and God loved us so much that he sent many messages and many messengers. And I crumbled, overcome, and I submitted. This is my Shahada story. I felt so surrounded by love and understanding. I didn't feel like I was betraying Jesus, the son of Mary, peace be upon him, or that I was going to go to hell for turning my back. I embraced everything. Everything that I learned about true Islam aligned perfectly with true Christianity, without culture, without personal practices, and without stereotypes.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Pam Abdul, and I have been a Muslim for 16 years. Before coming into Islam, I actually was part of the Church of Christ. My mom raised us across Christianity, raised in Trinidad under the blood of the Lamb, Jesus Christ. I never connected with that concept, and my mother would tell you to this day, as a child, I've always questioned that three in God business. Like, I couldn't relate to it. Like, I didn't feel that I was connected to God through Christianity, and I always struggled with that because I love my mother dearly, and of course, as kids, you want to do everything you can to please. And I think my brother Hashim, he actually became a Muslim for us, and he used to try to talk to me about Islam, and I used to tell him, get away from me, like, there's no way I want to hear that. Islam is not for women, it's a man religion. And it's because I didn't know, and all the stereotype that came with Islam, I bought into it because I didn't do my own research. And funny enough, my brother didn't convert me, he actually converted my husband. And my husband, he took his Shahada. I think that was one of the saddest days of my life because I wasn't ready to become a Muslim. And I think part of it is because I didn't want to leave my mom behind. I felt as though I was going to leave my mother behind, and I didn't want to sit down there and go on a path that she wasn't on. But as you become adults, you realize that sometimes you have to break away from the traditions that you were raised with. Even that means hurting the ones you love. And I know that with Allah, that my mom would have found a way to understand. So I started actually searching out Islam. And the funny story is, my intent was to disprove it. So I actually was trying to learn it so I could tell my sister, who also had converted before me, and my brother, and my husband, that Islam wasn't a religion for them. And Allah had other plans, right? Because he is the best of all planners. And so, funny enough, my husband and I were sitting down, reading the Quran, and we have had lots of nights of discussion. And I would always recommend to anyone who wants to study any religion, do your own research first. Don't take just what someone's saying always go after the truth, whatever that truth would be for you. And one of those nights, my husband and I we were sitting and we were going back and forth about the concept of men in religion and the roles that they play and the roles women played. And I don't know what happened. And I always tell everybody this story because it was so unreal. Like, I didn't even imagine that it would happen. We were reading from the Quran, and I remember my husband started off reading. And I don't know what happened. It's like I no longer heard him. Like, somebody was reading to me because I was hearing it, but somebody was reading, and it scared the crap out of me. Like, I started crying, and my husband stopped reading. Like, what is going on? I was like, I don't know. I was like, did you hear that? And he's like, hear what? He's like, did you hear someone reading? And I was like, he's like, no, I didn't hear anybody reading. What are you talking about? I was reading, but it wasn't his voice I was hearing. And no lie, after that, I started looking at Islam differently, like, because I felt as though that was Allah's way of coming to me to tell me that I was on the path to finding the truth, and I just had to continue in my research, not for the research that I came in with to disprove them, but for the truth. After that night, my husband and I started to speak with one of the sheikh, and Sheikh Fauzi actually came in and sat with me and spoke with me about the religion, asked me questions, make sure that I was sure, making sure I wasn't going into the religion because my husband was trying to bring me to the religion. And that was one of the things I admired most, because at first I thought most Muslim women were in it for their husband. I think that was one of the biggest stereotypes ever, and that we don't have a mind of our own. And honestly, I realized that was an insult to think that a woman couldn't think for herself, to whereas she wanted to get into that for her own choice, because that was my decision. My husband never forced me to become a Muslim for him, even though many people probably thought I became a Muslim for him. And I know I didn't, because even after we divorced, I stayed in religion because to me that is my truth. I'll be lying if I told you that. When I first started in religion, I didn't even know how to pray. I struggled with the words. I didn't even know how to read Arabic, nor did I even think I wanted to learn. But the more you find a connection to Islam, is the more you wanted to do more. The more you start to see in truth. And on the outside world, I am a scientist by trade. So things have to connect to me, and that's how my mind works. When I start seeing connection, then things start to make sense. So for me, when I would read the Quran and I would be able to connect with it and believe, okay, Allah didn't have a son and he didn't have a Holy Ghost. Like, those things kind of came out of the pictures. And I'm not disputing anyone who believes in that. That is your truth. I'm just trying to tell you mine. But for me, I was able to actually see, okay, if you look through logic, and you can find it, and I'm not telling you to go out there and tell your parents they were teaching you wrong. I'm telling you to go find your own truth. Go find your own research. And so for me, as a Muslim woman, I am still growing in that faith. And it's a struggle because, I have my kids that I've raised Islam, but now they are challenging it because now they are facing the world and their schools, and that's not the norm. And of course, all the negative connotation with Islam for kids these days is a challenge. So for me, that's my battle today with Islam, is how do I continue to talk to other people, women, men, even my own kids, to show them, hey, I understand that you want to do the way of the world, because Islam might be too structured, it might be too rigid. We have to eat a certain meat. Muslim women dress modestly, because modestly is not a way of cuteness. It's not a way that people make women feel beautiful. I have seen the most beautiful women under hijabs. I mean, and you never thought you would see, because your eyes start to change. You no longer see people the way you look at them. Even if I see somebody today who is not a Muslim, I don't say, oh my God, you're going to the hellfire, or you don't have the truth. I see someone and say, maybe one day they will get to my stage. How do I start that conversation to embrace them, to start talking about what took me from Christianity to Islam? At the end of the day, for me, I think for women, we live in a society that man is seen as a superior being. That's just the truth. It's not a religious thing. It's just a societal thing. And I think for us, Islam gave me my voice. Islam showed me the value of a woman. And for me, it makes me feel empowered. It's like I want to actually go out there and be like, okay, I'm supposed to be doing something more.
Okay.
I'm Macy. I've been a Muslim since Eid 2019, and that's when I took my Shahada. And I've been exposed to Islam for 3 years, and I was just learning about it before I took my Shahada.
How has Islam impacted your lifestyle And can you talk to me a little bit about your lifestyle prior to Islam?
Okay, well, Islam impacted my lifestyle as far as, I guess, the day-to-day living and how you live your life. Because I think I had a pretty basic life before, but remembering to get up for prayer, I'm so used to just going to work, getting up, going to bed and sleeping for my full 8 hours and then getting up and going to work. So incorporating prayer when you're not home and when you are home, and that's pretty much it.
Talk to me about some of your choices in fashion and how your perspective was prior to Islam versus what it is now.
I guess before Islam, I always kept my head wrapped and I wore, I wasn't wearing nothing too much. But of course, now that I don't wear short sleeves. I don't wear spaghetti straps. So I've been learning how to change my outfits up to incorporate the attire that I should have on. So just adding in more cover-ups, sweaters, or just keeping my arms covered pretty much. And wearing hijab, I don't wear a traditional hijab all the time. I might just wrap my hair up. So that's another thing that I do. That I try to wear hijabs, but most of the time I just wrap my hair up.
What are some of the misconceptions that you had of Islam prior to becoming Muslim that you later found out to be, somewhat of a blessing in disguise? Or how would you see that?
I didn't have much misconceptions. People will say certain things as far as women. You couldn't talk, you couldn't speak, you couldn't drive a car, certain things like that. So those things that I heard, but I just thought it sounded ridiculous. But I learned that it's not what people make it seem. They made it seem like women were just second class in Islam, when that's not the case. So that's pretty much what I learned. Most people, if you mention Islam to them and you're a female, they make it sound like, oh, you're gonna give up your whole entire life and you can't speak, or you gotta hold your head down and cover up yourself and walk around. So that's another misconception that I overcame, I should say. People tend to feel like if you have to cover yourself, it's a form of putting someone down, which I had to let people know it doesn't make any sense for you to say, oh, you can't wear a mini skirt, so you can't live your best life. So that's something that I got to see once I learned more about Islam.
And my final question is, how has community support, or how important has community support played into your development in Islam, and how important is that type of support to potential non-Muslims who are interested in becoming Muslims or accepting Islam?
Well, it's just like how I literally never heard anything about Islam until 3 years ago, out of my years being alive. So me not being around a community or a support team or just other people, you would never get to know about it. So people who are non-Muslims, if there's no one they can go to even see how they live as a Muslim, or to learn what Islam is about, you would get lost, and then you would never know, and you only base things off of what you hear, what you see on TV, which is never the case. So a community and support is always great. Always good to have a support team to teach you things. If you have a question, you can learn, answer different questions, learn different stuff. So I think that's always 100% good thing to have a support team in the community behind you.